Hey everyone, Jakinto here. Today I'll be going over a plus 13 the other side that I chested about a week ago. I really want to go over all the pulls that I did in this dungeon, the route that I took, as well as analyzing my own gameplay as a Blood Death Knight. Let's just get into it here. So I'm running with a Holy Paladin, Shadow Priest, Balanced Druid, and a Marksmanship Hunter. We're going to see in the first pull, I do pull both mobs together, so the 2-pack and the big pack right below the stairs here. I'll rune tap right off the bat, just to get that damage reduction right away. And I'll dancing rune weapon as well. Build those bone shield stacks. As you can see, I'm popping a lot of my defensives very early here. This is because I know I'll be able to kite after the initial part of the pull, but I want to stay in just to get threat on everything right now. So we're gripping everything together. We did have treants go out at the beginning, which helps a ton. It really helps me get that threat and be able to kite later on if I have to. And as you can see, I just Door of Shadows. If you're a Venthyr, that's a great way to kite them away if you really need to. So I Door of Shadows away. Because of the Risen Warlord is a lieutenant, he's not able to be slowed. So you do have to use some movement speed boosts or teleportations to get away if you need to there. And right now I'm just kiting. As you can see, the affixes here are Fortified, Spiteful, Grievous. So this was about a week ago. And with another Fortified week coming in next week, I thought it'd be great to show you that route. So the first pull there is just that big pull. We may less that as well a lot of times. Usually if I have like a Resto Shaman and if we're doing hierarchies, we will less that first pull, especially on Fortified, just so it goes a bit smoother there. But right now, we didn't really see the need to do that. We can just save it for the boss there. And the next pull that we do here is just the regular pull with the Death Speaker. This is quite a big pull too, so we'll start off, we're almost always going to be front-loading our defensives just to make sure we don't get one-shot, as that's kind of the biggest time that we're most susceptible to getting one-shot is the beginning of the pull, just taking that spike damage at the beginning there. And now, just kind of doing our regular rotation. As you can see, I'm kind of moving a little bit, kind of stuttering. This is to prevent some auto attacks from occurring there. And if you see me leaping towards an enemy really quickly, that's because of my trinket. That's the one from Shriekwing that just deals a lot of damage there. And right now, I'm just kiting away. I don't have many defensives up, so once my defensives go down, I will tend to kite a bit more here. And this is a Fortified week as well, so the trash mobs will be hitting a fair bit. And after this pack, you're not going to see us go into the next boss room yet. If you're doing a key under a 10, so there's no prideful active, you can just go to the first boss room. But since we are doing a 13 key, there is prideful, and we want to make sure the prideful adds align well, especially with the bosses there. So that's why we're going to keep going for now. We're just going to pull this one pat by itself, as this one on Fortified Week deals a lot of damage with its raging. So we're going to get the Hunter to pop that urn there, and ideally he wants to pop it when he's going to do his rage, not before then, because if he does it before then, he'll still cast the rage. But right now, as you can see, he gets it off about halfway through the rage cast, which is pretty good. If you can get it a bit earlier, that'd be great, but it can be hard to time. But not too much damage because we had that urn going out there. And after this mob, we should be moving on. Definitely, if he gets his rage off, you'll have to use a big cooldown. You might want to use AMZ there, or just get your healer to use a big cooldown here. Now we're going to be pulling this left pack, as you'll see. After this pack, we're going to get the prideful mob. So we're just going to pull this pack just separately here. And we did pop our Swarming Mists just to get that Runic Power generation going. Bone Shield stacks are at 7 right now, 10 now, which is great. We're at a really good sign here, and we have Vampiric Blood up still, which is great. We want to make sure we're avoiding that pat that's coming in there. So we're really pulling him into the corner so we don't get that pat. And he's going to stop about there. We'll have that manifestation, just cleaning up the remaining ads. And for Spiteful, I want to make sure you kite those shades away. Get those CCs, those slows. Luckily, we have a Druid for Ursols, which really helps a lot. These manifestations here, really just communicating with your group if you can, who has the beams that are going to shoot out of them. If you can't communicate, just make sure you're really keeping in mind, who has it if you're in a pug. And I'll usually AMZ around 10 stacks of that buff to the manifestation, as that's kind of when it ramps up quite a bit. If you AMZ there, a lot of times it'll die right when your AMZ is about to go down, which is great. And as you see, we use the prideful buff in order to kill these warlords here. Just because we will be going back to the first boss room, it's quite a long ways to run. Plus, we want these warlords for that kill count. And I'm really just going to kite these away. On Fortified, when these enrage, they're going to do a ton of damage. So I'm just going to get initial threat, make sure they don't pull off of me, and I'm going to kite away as best as I can and pretty much just keep running. We're going back to the first boss room anyway, so might as well just kite them back there while the DPS does their damage, and you're able to do some Death's Caress as you run away as well. And your dots will be ticking on too, especially if you have the Super Strain Legendary. So now we're going into the first boss wing, the Hakara wing. And here, not doing any crazy pulls with the initial hallway here, just kind of pulling each pack one by one. And at the end of the hallway, we're going to get that manifestation ad. And that's kind of what we're setting up for, making sure we get that ad before the boss, just to make the boss that much easier here. So with these, we do want to stun and grip those devoted sacrifices, just so they don't turn into those ads which spawn the blood pools. And we're going to be focusing on interrupting the High Priest whenever we can, mainly focusing on those heals, as the heals pretty much heal them to full, so we don't want any of those getting off at all. And after this is done, we'll move on to the next pack here. And we do have the Pat coming in, so we're just going to pull it with the 4-pack. This can hurt a little bit, especially on Fortified weeks. What we want to watch out for here is the bleeds from those Deathwalkers here. So if the bleeds stack up too high and we run out of defensives, we definitely want to start kiting. As you can see, the bleeds did drop off of us, which is great. And we do want to interrupt those Blade Storms as much as we can, stunning, gripping before the Blade Storm cast is about to go out. That's always great. And if there's another thing you want to interrupt here is the hexes and the lightning discharges, especially if the discharges go on a healer there. And the shades are coming out here. So when those shades come out, I really like to use my Death and Decay slow. It really helps the group a lot, especially if you have melee in the group. Otherwise, just use your D&D slow to kite those Deathwalkers. And that's because we took the Grip of the Dead talent there. Right now, just kiting the shades back, as they pretty much will 2 or 3 shot people and they do a lot of damage. And we'll move on to that next pack here once the group is clear. And here we go. We have the urn to the right. We're not going to use that yet. We're going to save it for the very last pack. Right here, we are going to use our mass grip just to get those devoted sacrifices refreshed on their cooldown. And that's a great place to do it as well. I definitely recommend doing it there, and it helps the group out a lot so you don't have to use a whole bunch of individual CCs. And just doing this one pack before we do the next, as he does have a heal. So if you don't kill this, if you pull this pack with the next pack, you can have 3 ads that can potentially heal, and that's just a lot to interrupt. So we're just going to pull this separate here, and we're going to pull the next pack back to this urn. And there we go. We're just going to kite it back here. If you have a hunter, it's great if you can get a misdirect to you. If not, just make sure you communicate, hey, I'm pulling the pack back. Don't touch it till I get threat on it. Then you get your Night Fate person, if you have one, to click on the urn, which will stun them for quite a while. And this really helps this pack out a lot. If you have a Night Fate person in the other side run, having those urns can really help in those places there. And right now, if Blade Storms go off, we're just kiting. We really want to kite. Make sure to kite away from the group. If the range group is kind of stacked together, kite away from them. And we have tree ents going out, which is really nice. And with druids, balanced druids, and Ellie shamans with tree ents and their earth elemental, it really helps a lot. Especially if you need to kite away or you need the pressure off of you a little bit just to gain more runic power and to heal up to full. And after this pull, we're going to get our manifestation coming in here. And we're going to use that on the boss. So there we go. Just making sure all the spiteful ads are away from the group and making sure we're pulling the manifestation away from them just to make it easier for everyone. And dodging the beams the best that we can. Just staying on this ad here. Perfect. So on this next boss here, we really want to focus on dealing as much damage to those ads as possible. Especially on Tyrannical, those ads can really get out of control. And we want to make sure the boss is in a good position where if you have melee especially, that pools aren't dropped on the boss, as if a pool is dropped below the boss and he does his barrier, they won't really be able to reach the boss at all. And here, it would have been good to kite the manifestation ad a bit towards the boss room. It can be a bit difficult as there's a lot of damage to go out, and you do want people to be stacked up a fair bit just for the healer to heal them up more easily. But ideally, we would have been closer to the boss room there. Now on the boss, on Fortified, it will go down quite fast, especially with the buff and with Lust here. We still want to make sure we're focusing as much as we can on those ads. We do have a double spawn on those ads because we did push the boss a fair bit. And we're trying to use defensive on all the piercing barb that the boss does. So using like a rune tap and then saving your runic power for just after that as well. So we have a piercing barb here. We didn't really have anything there, but we did have runic power to heal that up. So that's very important, especially on those tyrannical weeks where it's going to hit hard. So as you can see, that boss fight only took 40 seconds with Lust and the prideful buff, so it didn't really take long at all, which is, it's ideal. It's kind of what we're going for. But for tyrannical, when it lasts for 2 or 3 minutes, you definitely want to make sure you're rotating cooldowns as best as you can. So now we're going to run directly to the Mana Storm boss wing. We don't really have any trash before then. There's that one pat that pats slightly before the stairs of the boss wing. We're not going to pick that up, just again to keep the prideful buff where we want it. This way, we're going to get prideful right before the Mana Storm boss on those slimes there. Just going up here, mounting up, and going right to the boss wing there. And things to note for this wing is we want to pull the dog separate of everything else, especially on Fortified, as it's going to do a lot of damage. And make sure we LOS Haywire, as that'll do a ton of damage as well. Make sure you pull the drills in a place where they can be LOS'd. And here we go here. And always keeping in mind of your affixes. So since it's Spiteful here, we want to either pull the mobs away from where we're going to be going, just so we can make the DPS go in that direction better, or have the DPS stack on the end that we're going to be going, and then just CC them. Positioning is great. So we're pulling the drill along with one of the headless clients, just because the drill, we can't damage it while it's doing its haywire, but we can damage the clients if it comes to us there. So it's pretty safe to pull both of those together in any situation. Interrupting all the discharge casts, try to stun the spinning ups if we can, or just get people to get away from that. And the drill, we just keep LOSing the haywires. They both go down, we have shades out. Making sure we slow these best as possible, stun them, anything you gotta do. The next pull is gonna be the dog, just separate, 4R. As he will hit pretty hard, and that stun can really, especially if it goes on the healer, can be quite detrimental if you pull more with that dog there. There we go, just getting that dog down, and then we will pull the 3 remaining headless clients next. We won't worry about the right side mobs, those little mobs that just explode. They don't actually give any percent, and we will be able to trigger them after the boss as well. And we kind of just slow them and don't worry about them at all. After these are dead, moving on to the headless clients. And again, for these, really making sure you focus on your interrupts when the discharge goes off and your stuns, either for the discharge or for the spinning ups. The spinning ups, you should be able to just slow and knock back. If you have people who have knockbacks, that shouldn't be a problem unless you have a lot of melee, then it would be kind of annoying. But for now, we are working on interrupting those discharges as they do a lot of damage. If you see 1 or 2 about to go off, really make sure you pop a defensive. So you're popping AMS, rune tap, anything you need to. And then death striking right away. So making sure you're really saving that runic power for the death strike. When they go down, we're going to get that drill. Just pull it separately here. And again, we do have those shades coming out. Making sure we deal with those. It's a lot better for people just to kite back and lose a few seconds than it is for them to die to the shade. So just be really safe with that. Here we go. I'll usually pull the drill just to the left side, right side, kind of wherever it is. And same thing, just LOSing the hay wires there. Pretty easy mob to deal with, but if a lot of people get caught out in the open, especially on Fortified week where it'll deal more damage, it can be, it can waste a lot of time. People die to that. After this drill, we will go ahead with the lubricators there in that room. I'll usually pull the 1 lubricator pack with the small ad separately, and I'll slow the small adds with Death and Decay, so we don't have to worry about them at all. They're just slowed there. They won't reach us before they explode. And then here we want to focus on interrupting lubricate and interrupting the heal as well. If you're playing with a group that's in Discord, you can definitely coordinate these interrupts. I had the sound turned off here just because I'm talking a lot. There's a lot of noise going on in the background there. But usually I'd be coordinating interrupts with whoever's in my group just to make sure we're not overlapping. If you use 4 interrupts all at once, then you'll have to use a stun or a different CC that you could otherwise save. So here we had our hunt as an engineer. So any engineer that you have, they're able to press a button just to the left there when you come in the door, and they can just kill all the slimes right away, which it's really helpful. And here we do pull those both of those lubricators together, and really coordinating interrupts and stuns best as you can. It can be a bit harder in a pug as you kind of looking to see who is interrupting and what's happening. But definitely the best way to do it if you can is get everyone in Discord or play with a group that you know. But those lubricates, if a cast goes off, it'll deal maybe half or 40% of people's health. If one cast goes off, healer should be able to heal it off. But if we don't have an interrupt for the healing cast, they'll heal up to full pretty quickly. And for my interrupts on the side here, you see where it says my interrupts and like right beside the party frames. That's from Omni CD. So that's what I use to track all the cooldowns of my party members that I want to see. So as you can see, we have raid cooldowns, interrupts, and then just other things to the left of their frames there that I want to track. Now we're on to the oils. So our hunter did die there. But as you can see, we did use our battle res, and we use our battle res raise ally macro just to mouse over and get him resed right away, as these oils deal a lot of damage, and if you had to run back, it would be quite a long run back, and we're going to get the manifestation here pretty quick. These oils just stun whenever you can, interrupt whenever you can, as again, they focus random people to do essential oil, and they'll deal a ton of damage to them. So really making sure we're stopping as much damage of that as possible. And after that, we're going to get the prideful ad spawning here. And we want the prideful ad here again, so we can use that on the next boss there. So as people go and kite these shades, we're just dealing with the manifestation of pride. Again, really being mindful where your party members are. The best thing to do with this, if you get the beams on you, or if anyone else gets the beams, is not to move. If they don't move and everyone moves around them, then it should be easy for everyone to dodge. Just make minor movements and dodge the beams. If they're moving a lot, then it would be pretty difficult. So if you get that, I recommend just not moving and let people around you move. You can see it's on me now, and I'm not moving at all. And I did use my AMZ to mitigate some of the damage, around 10 stacks there. And here we go. We do lose some seconds because this hallway is pretty long, but it's totally okay. And for this boss fight, just remembering to, for the first ad here for Millhouse, make sure the DPS soak the crystals. If not, then you can definitely get the crystals as well. But they do give a damage boost, so we do want those DPS to get those crystals as much as possible. Interrupting as much frostbolt as you can too. And for the lines that are supposed to go through the boss, they will stun the boss as well as you. So make sure you're not right stacked on top of the boss and not getting hit by these lines, the laser here that's about to go out. But it can be difficult at times. As you can see, I did get hit there. It can be hard if they're not, the two people who get it aren't on the other side of the boss. And here we don't want to push Millhouse to 10% if we're not able to kill Millhouse, kill the next ad directly. We do want Millhouse alive to do Shadow Fury on the second ad there. As you can see, we did stop DPS quite a bit. Diabolical Doom is coming out, so we want to stun with that line there. That'll make sure that only one tick happens, but one tick will happen of Diabolical Doom. So really make sure you use defensives, raid cooldowns there. We did keep Millhouse alive, so Maleficent is up, and we're going to get Shadow Furies in order to stun Maleficent when we need to. Now Maleficent does a lot of tank damage with the Buzzsaw there. You definitely want to keep Dancing Rune Weapon for that if you can, especially on Tyrannical weeks, so you can parry some of those Buzzsaws there. And make sure you're rotating your cooldowns as appropriate as you need to. I'm falling quite low on Blood Shield stacks here. I actually fell off, which is quite bad. And I did pop a Vampiric Blood, which is nice. I should be mirror ending here just to get my stacks back up. And now this is where we want that Shadow Fury coming in. It's coming in now, but we're going to push pretty quickly here. And I did pop AMZ just for that initial burst, as it will mitigate a fair bit of damage while that stun's going off. And if you do it properly, if you have the damage, Maleficent will come back out, and you'll be able to kill her just as you kill the other boss there, and it should be fine. But yeah, really making sure you keep that one boss alive in order to do that. Now going to the next boss wing here. Just going to slow those ads there. And again, they don't give any percent. They're just a bit of an annoyance, so just run past them. It's no problem. The next pack we can get here is the patrol here. It's going to be the Rager that does the masks. And we don't have an urn for him this time, so if you have some kind of raid cooldown, it's great to use that here, as it will do a lot of damage. And try to avoid pulling this guy on the stairs as well. If you can pull him on a platform, that's definitely the best thing to do, as the masks can be really overwhelming if it's on stairs, since it is such a narrow area. And Rage is going out here. As we can see, the Paladin did activate Aura Mastery, and even through that, it's doing a ton of damage. But we shouldn't get another one after that. Cool. And next up here, we're going to do both of these packs together, which I usually like to do if you have a Night Fae with an urn. If you don't, it could be a little bit more sketchy. I'll go in, Dancing Rune Weapon right away, Blood Plague, or Blood Boil just to get threat on all the enemies. And then once the Night Fae person is in place, I'll pull the next pack there, and then they'll stun. As you can see, I did pop a lot of my defenses right off the bat, again, because I know they're going to be stunned. I know I'll be able to generate runic power while they're stunned, so might as well pop those while they're hitting me, while they're alive. And they're going down pretty quick now, as we did have our DPS popping cooldowns. And right now, just really kiting them back if you need to, interrupting the Death Speaker for the Shadow Core just to prevent damage. There we go. And it's also worth noting that you're able to mind control the cultists, especially that one cultist at the beginning. You're able to mind control that, but I would recommend releasing that cultist, as it will kind of mess up the kill count and when you get the pridefuls. But you can control a cultist in this pack if you want to and keep it throughout. You just have to change your route a little bit just to pull something else extra. But if you do that, do remember that you can't use your Raise Ghoul and you cannot use Sacrificial Pact. So if you think you'll need that 25% damage, then you actually won't be able to, or 25% healing rather, for max health, you actually won't be able to get that. So that could be detrimental for survival too, if you find yourself in need of that. And right now we're just waiting for our priest who died to the traps there. So this pull, for this wing rather, we are going to Dealer Zyxa. That's how you pronounce it. You can pull quite big, even on Fort weeks, as everything you're able to kite. And that's when having that Death and Decay slow really helps. So we're going to pull the Pat that comes, as well as all these moths here. And, I could probably pull a bit bigger as well, but I was being a bit safe here just because I knew we were ahead on time. So I didn't want to throw the key at all. And they go down quite fast, as you'll see. If I need to, I'll drop a Death and Decay to kite. If not, then I'll keep them for the shades here. I'm just rotating my cooldowns, keeping those bone shield stacks up, and making sure I'm not overcapping on runic power, making sure I'm not using excess runic power and dropping down to 0 if I don't have to. Just as that would be a waste of healing. If it's just going to overheal me, then it wouldn't be worth it. I actually get slept here, which is bad. I should have jumped, but I do have that decurse there, which is nice. These are just about dead here. And next pull, I'm going to be pulling these mend benders and bark binders here. I pull these together. And really keeping an eye on that percent as well. If you're not pulling exactly like me, really keeping an eye on that percentage that you have for that prideful buff. If you have the prideful manifestation of pride coming out when you have a lot of ads up, that can definitely be detrimental. It can cause a wipe. So really keep an eye on that. As you can see, we're getting quite close here. We've got, just a couple more mobs until that happens here. So here I am going to pull these packs. It's going to be a lot more than the pride, but I know I'm able to kite them. I know that I'm communicating with my group as well, so we're able to kill them all, pretty evenly and have that go out. So that's great. Again, just healing up using Death Strike when I need to. Don't use it preemptively. So if you're just taking, if you took initial damage, save it if you can until you get lower. Remember, you should be running Will of Necropolis, which will save you from a lot of damage, 30% damage below 30% health. So you do have a bit of buffer room as well with that. You're really saving those death strikes to go down as low as you can, just so you can get proper usage out of it. Allow your healers some time to heal you up too, especially if no other healing's going out. Now we have the Pride ad coming in. We don't have too many ads left, but we are dropping that Death and Decay to slow them and kite them away. And that'll help our group there as our shades are coming out too. And just doing Manifestation of Pride. And remember, after Pride, if you're not using Pride on a boss, you're able to do a bigger ad pull, as your healer is going to be getting some more mana. It's going to be increased movement speed. It's going to be increased damage. So feel free to do a bigger pull there, and you can always kite them away if you need to. Go, and I probably should have used an anti-magic zone here. It seemed like the healer was doing a really good job of healing people off, but I still probably should have used it just to alleviate some of that stress there. And as you'll see, I'm doing quite a bigger pull here. I'm doing pretty much 3 packs, 4 packs here with the stealth Spriggans here. And since we have a Night Fae, again, we can use that urn. The urn's going to stun all of them, so I know that's coming out. Right now, I'm just focusing on generating runic power since they're all stunned, dealing as much damage as possible. And once they are about to release here, if I need to kite, then I'll start kiting. I do have my Death and Decay up again. And I'm just telling my group here, run towards the entrance to kite, as they could run to the other side, but there's going to be way too many shades, and it's best just to, even if it's a waste of time running the other side, just kite back, kill the shades, do what you got to do. And we are pulling a little bit more here. So what I like to do, I like to get around 97% here before I'll stealth through the next part. So I'll get to around 97%, and then I'll stealth through and pretty much to the last packs before the next boss, before Dealer's Ixa. And I'm counting the percent. I can see the percent through Angry Keystones, and that allows me to mouse over and see the percent. As you can see in the bottom right, I can see the percent that they're worth. So I'm like, okay, I actually need some more percent here. And it's nice that none of these mobs, as long as you don't pull one of the big blade beaks, the matriarch blade beaks, I think they're called matriarch, yeah, then there's no lieutenant mobs that are in these packs here, so you can kite them easily, which makes this room pretty easy in general. But if you do pull a blade beak matriarch, they are pretty hard to deal with, especially on Fortified week. If you pull some of the little blade beaks, and they cast Frightening Cry and that goes off, then that'll actually pull pretty much all the blade beaks in the area, including the matriarch. So you don't want to pull those little ones if you don't need to. If you do, you accidentally pull them, I would recommend stunning them, keeping them stunned. Don't let that cast go off at all. It's not interruptible though, so that you do need to stun them or use some hard CCs on them. From here, we do want to avoid the dragon in the middle there, Sky Talons, and this is where we're going to stealth. So just stealthing through all these mobs here, as there is the Bladebeak Hatchling. That's the one that does the Frightening Cry. We want to avoid that. We want to avoid the Matriarch. So we're just going in. As you can see, we're 98.7%. If you're at 97, then you need those Shimmer Moths that we just passed by. If you're above that, if you're at about 90, 98 or higher, then you're fine just to pull these, the Rune Stags here. As Rune Stags, these will give you 2%. So 98 or higher, just pull these. 97, pull those Shimmer Moths there. And after this, the Prideful will come out, and that'll allow us to use that before Dealer's Ixa, before the boss there, which is perfect. This is, pretty much the easiest pack I think we've done in the dungeon. Just one pull, 3 mobs, just able to just face tank them easily without much kiting. Right now, we're just going to help out our party members with those shades there. And then pulling that manifestation back just to the group so they're not on top of the shades. And again, if you can stay stacked here, a lot of healers will really love you for doing that, especially shamans and druids when they do have AoE healing where you have to be pretty close to. If you can't stay stacked, then just dodge those beams, make minor adjustments to dodge them. They'll really like that. Hmm. And here's another place I could have popped AMZ as well. I was kind of saving it for the boss though, as I knew we had all our cooldowns up. It wouldn't, because we only pulled a 3-pack before then, it wouldn't really be much of a problem. So moving on to Dealer Zyxa, really using those traps for you as a tank. You're really just dodging, those lines on the ground, and when the explosion happens, you're going up to the trap. You also want to make sure that when the arcing lightning comes out, you don't want to take too many stacks of that, but you do want to alleviate stacks from your team as much as possible too. So right now, Lightside Shrubs has 4 stacks of that, Seawade has 2, so you do want to make sure that you're alleviating the stacks from them if they get too high. And really make sure that people know which trap you're going to be at. So right before the explosion comes out, stand right beside the trap which you're going to use, especially during a pug where all they can see is your positioning, especially if you don't have comms with them. So stand beside the trap as opposed to having to run all the way there when it happens. And now we're just going to move on to that last boss. Enemy force is at 100. All we have to do is deal with the last boss now, and then we're good to go. Perfect. Bit of a run here before the last boss. But for the last boss, what we really want to coordinate is who's going where. So I'll usually put marks on top of people's head and place markers on the ground. So whichever person has which mark, they're going to go to the corresponding markers in order to get teleported to that platform for Muizala for that last boss here. Just to make sure. So when you're a tank, you kind of it's easier for you to be the leader of the dungeon, as you're supposed to know like the routes. People expect you to know the routes and pretty much everything about the dungeon. Um, so definitely make sure if you're able to coordinate that while you're running, that's a great thing to do. Great time saver. So once you get there, you don't really have to do too much. As you can see, I'm just placing traps down with the macros that I have. I forgot my one for green, I think. So I'm just doing that as best as possible. And just, taking a bit of time to do that. We have lots of time here. As you can see, we're not going to make it to a chest, so I wasn't too worried about the time. Just getting everything set up and going there. So for Morizala, if you see him at 100 energy, you want to use a defensive, as that's when he's going to do his Soul Crusher to you, and it's going to deal a lot of damage. And remember, you do get a dot from that as well. So you're going to be taking a lot of taking damage along with that. Right now, we're just dodging his, just all the casts that he does. And remember, after all of these, he'll do the 3 casts, the left, right, and the middle. After that, he'll do a Soul Crusher, because he is at 100% energy. So make sure right after he finishes that combo there, you're using a Rune Tap or some kind of defensive in order to mitigate that. We're just using saving Death Strikes as best as you can. And he does deal quite a bit of damage here. So right now with my group, I'm just calling out which side to go right side, go left side. See where he died, so we're getting that battle res there. And just keep going along with that. There we go. So we figured out who's going to which side, going to our portals right away. And there was Grievous in this key here. So ideally, the healer would have everyone healed up to top for Grievous, as they will die on the platforms. As you can see, our hunter did die here. So I don't think he got his down, unfortunately. But we'll be able to get the ultimate goal is to one phase this. So having everyone to go in separate directions, one phase it saves a ton of time when dealing with this boss here. But if you're not able to, then you might have to do another phase there. As long as you can get 2 down, it does make it a lot easier. I know Druid got the res on the hunter, which is great. And now just using the haste buff we get from getting those ads and clicking on the totems, just to do as much damage in this phase as possible on the boss. And as you can see, we only got 3 of them down, so we will have to wait for an additional phase here. And there's only 1 ad left. And we can see where that ad's coming from the kind of shadow beams coming from the totem. So we'll know which one to go to. I marked it with X. So if everyone goes to X, then it should just go down pretty easily there. And right now, we're just using our defensives for the Soul Crushers. and dodging that combo of everything. So I use Dancing Rune Weapon here, and we're able to generate more runic power here, deal a bit more damage, makes it easiest for it to heal up, especially since we're parrying, should be parrying those attacks too. That Soul Crush, I use that Rune Tap. Now we're just dodging, and shortly after that, we will be in the next phase, and we'll be able to kill that last ad there. Perfect. Rush, and here we go. So again, I marked it with X, which one we should go to. It's the only totem that's left, and we're just going to kill this ad here. And once we do that, the boss will die shortly after that. So it probably does end around about 10% health. And since we have everyone here, except for I think one person, then it's easy to kill. And we just have to wait until we're ported back. Then we'll be good to go. As you can see, I didn't really do a whole lot of crazy pulls in this dungeon. It was kind of just clean. We only had 4 deaths, which is pretty good. But I didn't really go for a whole lot. We did have quite a few pulls where I pulled multiple mobs, which is kind of what you'll have to do to chest this. But if you know which mobs you can pull together, then it really helps a lot. And that's the key. We had about 5 minutes to spare there, and just one chest of the 13. And got a nice ring out of that too. But yeah, that's the key. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope this helped you in some way with the pulls, and just with tanking the Blood Death Knight too. I know people have recommended me to get some kind of weak aura or add-on that tracks the abilities that I have. Unfortunately, I didn't get this for this video, but I'll try to remember to get that for future videos when I do these kind of videos too. But yeah, if you have anything else you want to see, please let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, like it, and drop me a sub if you can. But hey, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.